Astrology is at risk today. I know it may not seem like it is when you log on to social media, browse through YouTube, turn on the radio, or look in the paper. In fact, contrary to what one might have predicted at the height of the late modern period, the age of information has practically inundated us with a flood of horoscopes and online astrologers. Then there are the hordes of people with astrological symbols dangling from their ears or around their necks, or tattooed on their bodies, who will usually ask you for your star sign within minutes of meeting you. I imagine that for the realist, the practice of astrology seems rather irritatingly stronger than ever. The astrologer who gets tens of thousands of views for their video horoscopes on YouTube will probably also doubt my thesis. But astrology is at an even greater risk now than it was during the height of the scientific revolution, when new discoveries in astronomy and the growing demand for objective evidence totally undermined the framework astrology relied upon for its credibility at that point. It's no surprise, really, that in the wake of the two world wars and in the midst of the Cold War, astrology experienced a revival amongst those who felt that a society built solely on reason and agnosticism was creating a spiritual sinkhole that threatened to consume us all in nuclear winter. However, the result has not been the enlightening rejuvenation of the school of astrology. It has instead merely dug up and reanimated the corpse of the old astrology that had lain buried since the dawn of the late modern period. The nature of the risk, then, is that today we find ourselves caught between two inaccurate and irresponsible perspectives of astrology. The first perspective is that of those whose premise for what they call knowledge is only that which can be confirmed by objective material evidence. They reject astrology as pseudoscience and argue that its teachings cannot be validated by any verifiable technique. Their error is not in their conditions for what they hold as valuable, but in their neglecting to apply those conditions to astrology without bias. The second perspective is that of those whose premise for what they call belief is that the mysteries of the universe cannot be unraveled with reason or the use of the physical senses. They hastily embrace astrology as a preternatural force of the cosmos that directs and orders life on Earth, and they argue that astrology is acting through impulses that are, as of yet, unidentifiable with the physical senses, and therefore impervious to the criticisms of reason and logic. Their error is not in considering the possibility that astrology holds truth, but in believing that they can discover that truth without holding it to some sort of standard. The source of the error for both of these arguments is simply ignorance. I'll give you a good example. I remember several years ago I came across a video of a segment of Mr. Bill Nye's series Eye of Nye. In it, Mr. Nye attempts to refute modern astrology by briefly summarizing the precession of the equinox. Now, Mr. Nye is a Sagittarius by birth, so he explains that the last time the sun rose in the constellation Sagittarius on his date of birth was 2,000 years ago, and that now, on his birthday, the sun rises in the constellation Scorpius, which he mistakenly refers to as Scorpio. I was astounded. I had grown up watching Bill Nye the Science Guy, and he had inspired in me a love of questioning and experimentation when I was innocent and impressionable. Yet here he was, blatantly misinforming young people. Now, I am just as irked as I imagine Mr. Nye is when I hear someone claim that the teachings or methods of astrology are a science, and then proceed to dismiss arguments against it which are based on reason and logic. But I had trouble coming to terms with the fact that the intelligent and well-educated Mr. Nye that I admired and respected since I was a boy would be foolish enough to just assume and state publicly that the signs of the zodiac are one and the same as their namesakes, the constellations, without researching it first. However, such a sloppy contention is understandable when we consider that the common alternative approach to astrology is a pseudo-scientific belief that physical planets and other heavenly bodies are literally influencing people and events through some as of yet unknown exchange of energy. Some of the adherents of this belief suppose themselves astrologers but cannot find a single planet in the sky on a perfectly clear night, while the rest allow themselves to be influenced by these people and make important decisions based on this premise. Carl Sagan beautifully illuminates the flaw in such thinking in his original Cosmos series. If planets a million or more kilometers away could exert some force on us at the moment of our birth so as to influence the course of events in our lives, why wouldn't the force of the people right there in the delivery room be an even greater influence? Unfortunately, I have found that astrology's entanglement between such extremes is really symptomatic of the conditions of modern life. Religion, and all the mystic arts, such as alchemy and divination, are all embroiled in this conflict, as the immense and ever-growing complexity present in the average individual's life places intense demands on their psyche. In the seeming flood of information and stimulation, we must expeditiously qualify the utility of whatever stands before us. Just how overwhelming this is for each and every one of us is evident from the sudden emergence seemingly en masse of flat earthers, obstinate nihilists, neo-communists, neo-Nazis, and every other extreme this epidemic of procrastination can conjure from the bowels of civilization. The only utility such extremes offer is in service of an individual's sense of moral or intellectual superiority. They either embrace the destruction of chaos or create a false sense of heroism. The true hero does not fancy themselves as such, and they confront chaos with bravery and a willingness to learn. This is exactly the task this series will be attempting to undertake as we dive into the world of astrology, because this is exactly what our two current opposing perspectives on this school have failed to do for us so far. However, it is important to clarify that the intention of this series is not to prove anyone wrong. In fact, it will be necessary to use some of the values our contemporary conflicting mindsets are built on in order to transform our ignorance into understanding. The type of investigation we will be doing will be modeled on great writers and scholars that have begun articulating and demonstrating how religion, myth, and the mystic arts should not be hastily rejected simply because they are literally and objectively untrue, nor should they be blindly accepted because of a misguided desire for the supernatural. The model I will be using demonstrates how through the open-minded use of logic and deep contemplative thought, we can find something truly valuable beneath the superficial that both ideologies have chosen not to seek. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed creating it, please like it and subscribe to my channel. And I hope that you will also consider supporting the creation of more Astrology Demystified videos by donating to my Patreon. The link is below in the description, where you'll also see links to Instagram and Facebook, where you can follow me and ask any questions you might have about astrology or Astrology Demystified. Stay stellar.